Separation is just a mind impression. Meaning it's made out of fleeting thoughts and belief. Bodily sensation mixed in with resistance, all of which are images on the screen, which have no effect whatsoever on the reality of being, your reality, the reality. The reality of consciousness, awareness. thoughts carry to a story, the story of somebody. My story, the story of consciousness being a story, being a string of images and feelings, images of the past. Within these images, there is the impression that it's me, that I'm what these images are about. These images are about me. And yet, in this moment, you can clearly notice it. An image appears to you. The image is not about you. It's just an image. A sound, a perception. That's somehow inviting you to agree that you are somebody within the image. And as you agree, then you become a limited form, a limited object, a man, a woman living a life, a personal life with a mother and a father and sisters and brothers and partners. And you become an object. And you hope for a better tomorrow. And pray for a better life. More money, the end of the COVID, the better relationships. Without noticing that erroneously you've somehow set yourself up. You set yourself up for a life of unhappiness and misery. You stepped into the sense of limitation willfully, because no one is forcing you. It's your doing. And you wonder, why is there so much injustice? What's happening to me? Or how could I have a better life? But the I that you consider yourself to be is a fiction, your fiction. And it's unhappy. And you don't need this fiction for any good reason. There is no good outcome out of believing yourself to be a daughter, a son, a person. And yet you believe that's what you are. You believe that that which is and that which perceives is the body-mind. Somehow you feel and you believe that it's the brain or the body or the mind, something objective, something material which perceives. But what is available to you is the realization that no object can perceive that objects are perceived. They're conceived and perceived. That which perceives which is undeniable. Like in this moment, you hear these words. It's not a male or female form. That which perceives is I consciousness, I awareness, and that I is not a form. That as you ask yourself, what is it that perceives? What is it that is aware in this moment? You're right there. There's nowhere to go to find yourself. You're right there. Not a body or a mind or a memory or a feeling. But you, the very awareness that is aware and that which is aware that it is aware and that it is. And you ask yourself, is awareness a product of something? Is awareness a product of a thought? You will find that the thought is limited. The awareness that perceives that which is limited, that perceives the thought, there's no evidence that it is limited. It knows itself directly. I know myself directly without needing to go to memory or philosophy or imagery or I know myself as this reality that perceives, the reality of consciousness. I do not know this consciousness to be a female or male consciousness. Yes, there is a male-female body. Which I perceive. Images and sensations. Which may have all sorts of shapes and forms and characteristics. But the I, that which perceives, you have the capacity to inquire, to contemplate the reality of your experience. You have the capacity to reason and to comprehend. So that the false can drop away. When you realize your true nature, your true essence, in the true essence of your experience. Because the true essence of your experience is your true essence. They're not two. Okay, so if you have any questions, please make sure you unmute your mic, and welcome to turn on your video if you like. Any questions? Hello, Holger.
Hello, Magdi. Some days ago, for some days now, I had this feeling I don't want to think, or I was so annoyed that my inquiry is so poor in a way. I mean, it was just, but I think I'm over, I think everything is fine again. It was just interesting to, it didn't feel depressing or anything. It was just, whatever. It was what it was.
Yes. We are the reality of our experience. We are not the content of experience, we are its reality. there are two ways of looking at it. Either you are the reality of experience, or if you are the content of experience, then you are the content of all experience, not just of a particular body-mind. So you are the sensation that arises. You are the wind, you are the sunshine, you are the colors of the sky, you are the sound, the songs of the bird, you are the breath, and you are the meowing of the cat, you are the world, you are the mind, all of it. So you're not defined by any particular weather pattern. Yes, there are weather patterns, of course. The world, body, mind is has a certain movement to it. In our contemplation, we're watchful not to define awareness by any particular weather pattern, and also to be watchful of this tendency to seek certain weather patterns, mind states, body-mind states. Best is to remain as you are, this aware presence that has no windows, no doors, no gates, no entry or exit ramps. The screen of experience, in a way, as a metaphor. So there's a noticing a tendency to hold down to and to resist, to push away, which are just imaginary activities, attempting to attain an imaginary experience for an imaginary character. Because as our true nature, as the reality of awareness, there is no interest in holding on or resisting or seeking or getting somewhere or improving. Yeah, of course we can improve our culinary skills or improve, the way we play the piano or whatever, but that's just a playfulness. It's a playfulness. Yeah, we like to build sand castles and tunnels. And it's fun. It's fun. But our happiness is innate. The happiness, the peace and happiness of consciousness. Happiness means nothing lacking. Nothing opposing in the spaciousness of awareness and the spaciousness of reality, of the reality of consciousness. Is no opposition. No opposition. It's like the water doesn't oppose itself, whether it's a wave rising next to a wave that's falling. It's no opposition. I remember being on a sailing trip from Corsica to Nice in southern France, and like I think it's a 2-day sail. And somehow a storm that was predicted for 2 days later came 2 days earlier. So here I am on this sailing boat in the evening. The waves, huge, crushing the boat, coming, boat is going up and down. The terror of death around the corner, right there, next wave. And then somehow I saw this, how the ocean was sort of one whole movement, interconnected, dancing. There was such a beauty and harmony. Of course, I was just lucky that it wasn't a bigger storm and for the size of the boat, but I felt such beauty and such peace. So true nature is like that ocean. And so we can notice how this resistance, what's its effect on the body-mind. You can notice it. And then we can relax. Relax the body. And not to label your experience, because somehow in labeling your experience, you're also separating yourself, subject and object. But when there is the intimacy, there isn't a separate subject or a separate object. And it's just love. It's non-separate. Not knowing, intimacy, beauty, love, peace. It's not like seeking a peaceful experience. It's very different. Because in seeking a peaceful experience, you're still separating yourself. And separating yourself, there is no peace. Yes. There is a sense of lack, incompleteness. So we are, in a way, surrendered to God, but not in a fatalistic way. Rather, it's a recognition that it's all God's will and God's dream in a way. And our business is to recognize that. My dream. Not the I that's dreaming all dreams. Is not a particular body mind. No, that is dreamt. Rather, the I is that which has no history. And yet it is the history of all stories. The only game in town, whatever the game is, whichever way we choose to define it.
If you add the letter S to history, then you get his story.
His story.
His story, yes.
Stories, endless stories.
Thank you, Magdi.
Yeah.
Be beautiful.
Yeah. Just be clear that you're not an object or a character in the story. You're not the story. All stories appear to you. All the characters appear to you. They appear out of you. They're your conception and your creation, your perception. Not you, the mind, but you, consciousness.
Hi, Magdi. John.
Hello, John.
Hi, John. I mean, hi, Magdi. Let me see if I can be brief. I after our talk a couple of nights ago in the satsang, last night I was walking and I began to have some anxious thoughts and this, and as we talked about the me being provoked a little bit, and well, it can get really provoked, but I was watching that and I saw that coming, and there was a part of me that wanted to just kind of think my way out of it or resist it or whatever. Then your words came also, and the idea of and somebody else had said something somewhere. Anyway, those words were coming to me, and I decided, like, okay, let's look at it. Mm-hmm. And I laugh because these aren't the natural thing, don't appear to be the natural thing for me to do, but they're not the way the me operates usually, my history. And unless I'm going to be trying to figure it out mentally. But anyway, I went there, and so I just went ahead and, I'm going to just use the word dove into it. But as I did that, And I got closer and closer. And as I seemed to almost just be in it, like I was part of it or something, it couldn't hold its, the mental stuff, the thought started going, and it couldn't hold. I was looking at the sensation, I was knowing the sensations and so forth and so on. And it just couldn't form. But then the other part of it was, because of what we were talking about the other night, somehow this other part was there, which I realized thought comes in and can try to describe what has happened. But there was this knowing of the movement of all of these objects, sensations, thoughts, even when thoughts would come in. And somehow this place of, I'm going to call it peace, or maybe even better I like this, it's good for me. I like this, I resonate with this, but there's a still place. There's a still place. And that's not a place, because all of a sudden it was a still place. At first, it seemed like, this is my recollection of it. And which I consider to be the I, but that which knows, and that which everything is appearing and all that kind of thing. But there was no more thought. There was just sort of being there, just sort of being. And then there was this realization that I was not separate from all these things. And in a way, what that seemed to be like was when people say there's this collapse between the objects, the distinction between the objects and awareness. And, I couldn't even say it's a beautiful place. It was just the very still, calm, fearless kind of place. Now, if it's for a few brief moments or whatever, and then today new stuff started, but it hasn't left. It maybe, as some people say, the perfume hasn't left. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I tried to share it the best I could.
Yes.
To recollect it and see what you had to say about it.
No, it's a lovely sharing, John. That's somehow available to us to go there. Something arises within the body mind, and from a distance we separate ourselves from it, we judge ourselves, we label it, we try to escape from it by thinking or ignoring, whatever. But when we don't when we don't engage in that, when we remain as we are, we remain present or remain as presence, that which seemed to be so threatening reveals itself for what it is. It's just a body-mind impression. And there is an effect to this shift in our experience. There is And the effect that you mentioned, the stillness or the still point, or the effect is that the aspect of our true nature, the reality of the truth is revealed, that in fact the peace is there. There is a peace that is not the result of us being present, but rather the peace is more the result of us not running away, not separating ourselves. The more we live as presence, the more the stillness that you mentioned, or the still point that you mentioned, the peace of being, I use those terms, is sort of revealed, realized. Because when there is clarity that the thief that you imagined was outside of your door was just a shadow of the bush, the shadow of a shadow in the garden, then the natural well-being of your true nature is spontaneously revealed. So consider that which hears these words right now is this very stillness, is this very peace and the tranquility of being. And it's not just a result of something you did right. I'm not saying that you're saying you're saying that, but that it's there. It's there across the board, and you will become more and more familiar with it as your nature in this moment and all moments, as you do not adopt the I am John model in your experience and in your life. The more you live your life open to the understanding that I is this borderless, transparent, aware presence. The screen, images can appear. The wide open sky and clouds, whatever they are, don't affect the sky. The more you live with that understanding and you live inviting yourself to this understanding, the more you will find that the peace that we all seek is the peace of being that which you are.
know, when you said something about doing something right. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's not about that. It's because that would involve a me again. Not that I have to avoid that either. It's not about doing one way or the other. It's just what results when doing it, however it's happened. It creates, in a way, you know, and it may not happen next time around or something. I don't know, but at this point, what it does is there's even to go there is what actually I said the other night was, I just want to know the truth. And so it creates this sort of like, it's almost as if I smell, I'm so thirsty and I need water and I smell some water, I smell a creek or I smell some, you know, and you just move towards it, you know, and hopefully there's water there, but you move towards it. And so in a way, it's like that.
Yes.
You know, it's not. There's not I mean, there is. I talked with Magdi, and all these other readings I've done, and what Magdi have said, and all your. If we quoted them, we could have quotes and all that kind of stuff. And all that stuff is there, and certainly that's there. But those are some of the smelling the fluid in the air or something, or the water in the air, you know.
Yes.
But actually the idea of walking towards it, you know. So in that sense, there's a kind of, you could say, I'm doing that, a walking, and as you said, look at it, take a look at it, you know.
That which is walking towards it is it.
Yes.
And there are words that we share sometimes, or that we read, or that reminds I of I, reminds I of I.
Yes.
So, and that's beautiful, because it's like it strikes that note, you know, ping, it strikes that note, because right there, I am I. And the thought about truth is a thought about I, and this thought arises from I. It's the false, out of the false, truth cannot arise. So a true thought, or a true, it pointing towards truth, can only arise from truth. It cannot arise from falsehood.
Yeah.
So any pointer towards truth that resonates for us is arising, in fact, from the same source. Is arising from consciousness to consciousness.
Yeah. In a way, there's almost I'm going to only say this. I don't want to take too much time, but there's this, in a way, I don't know. It reminds me of when sometimes I hear in some circles about this, nothing to do, and all that kind of stuff. In a way, there's some truth to that, because if there's something to do as a me, I don't know how to say this, but it's known that if it were up to me to do it, I wouldn't do it, and or it would just be difficult. It would just, you know, if I somehow, it's just, there's a knowing here that says, I am I, you know, there's just, and I don't know how to explain it, but it kind of gives me an idea of what maybe those things could mean as well. So,
just as an a side note, John,
Yeah.
I rarely use the terms "there is nothing
Yeah.
new," although I do sometimes use those terms, but it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
my favorite way of sharing, because in the statement, there is nothing to do. There is the assumption, there's still the assumption of a doer. So I
Yeah.
don't speak much that way, but I understand, your point.
Yeah, it's just all it really means. Where I just brought that up because it's kind of maybe that's what some people are trying to say or something, or maybe they're saying the opposite. But it's just more that there's such I can call that beautiful. I don't know, but there's such a beautiful thing to have no me there. To have it's to be. It's very hard to put in words. So maybe I should, but it's just very, it's just that knowing that it's all God's will. It's thy will. And it's not separate from me. It's not separate from I.
Right.
However to say that. Anyway, that's it. Thank you, Magdi. I appreciate it.
John. Okay. Definitely.
No.
Any questions? See, the dog has a question.
Hello, Magdi. It's Marga.
Hello, Marga.
That dog's question was very pure.
Yes.
So it seems like once everything gets set down, that when there's confusion again, that can be remembered, or there's like a breadcrumb trail back, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But part of the process for me seems to be that there's, years of our tendencies that come up for examination on more subtle levels. It seems, because if it keeps recurring, and I'm not sure who's questioning this, it could be the confusion questioning itself. But sometimes when you talk about the separation, you'll mention how you'll kind of, give examples. And one of the examples you give is like, he shouldn't have said that, or she shouldn't have done this, kind of what the mind is telling itself, or the separation is fixated on. And the pattern that seemed to be, repeated here is so not oriented towards the reality out there, but more perceiving this separate self that could have made a different choice, that could have been better, that feels perhaps at a very base level less than, so that when there's confusion, it's turned inward. I'm just becoming aware of like a real baseline of that orientation towards confusion. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Like a sort of self-judgment?
Yes, very strong self-judgment that somehow I'm in control and that I could do better, or I could perfect, so that there wouldn't be disagreement, or that life would be smoother.
Right. Well, in terms of the self-judgment, Marga, both that which is being judged, as well as that which is judging, they're both illusion, they're both false. So the activity of judgment is falsehood upon falsehood. The false is judging the false. Now, that's quite different from understanding. I may understand that a certain pattern of not listening, of jumping in or responding or remembering, comparing, and understanding that, for example, comparing myself to myself, a better me to a lesser me, that process is unhappy and has nothing to do with being, has nothing to do with presence, has nothing to do with beauty, with love, with happiness. That is not a judgment, that's an understanding. So somehow if you could disengage your judgment and sort of oriented towards understanding, towards, yes, then maybe certain aspects of your own inner psyche, that certain conversations about yourself, about others, or some recollections. See if if it's possible to understand what is arising within you, rather than remain at the surface of it. So in understanding, there is a listening, sort of a sinking under that which you are experiencing. And you are not just remaining at the level of the thought, rather you are at the level of witnessing, listening, attending to the thought. Not trying to fix it, but simply for its true meaning to be revealed to you. Of course, also within our inner dialogue, we dialogue from the maybe hidden assumption that I am a limited, separate somebody. And that assumption comes hand in hand with good and bad. It's like, oh, is it good? Is it bad? Is it big? Is it small? Is it beautiful? Is it not beautiful? Is it healthy? Not healthy? It comes with a measurement, evaluation, judgment, wanting to improve it, to protect it, to safeguard it, to defend it, etc. Now, of course, this sense that I am Marga, that I am somebody, is not what you truly are. You are the awareness. that may or may not be aware of that sense of personhood, irrespective of whether you are aware of the sense of personhood or not. You still are that awareness. You are this, the reality that perceives, that hears, that is. So self-judgment is a combat within oneself between two imaginary entities, the good and the bad. The judger and the judged. But our truth cannot be divided, it's not divided. Truth is, reality is. You cannot be divided. You are indivisible. You are not something that comes in pieces. That which hears these words right now is not 2 or 4 or 8. It's just one being, one presence, one reality. So in judgment, we divide ourselves. Imaginary. It's a false division. But although it's imaginary and false, it triggers emotions within the body, feelings within the body. And we get caught up in these feelings because we don't want feelings. We want peace. But we confuse peace. Now that we're in the feelings, we confuse peace with the better feeling. So we try to improve our feelings. So we try to stay in the camp of the good, of that which is judging and not that which is judged, something like that. I mean, we try to find a way to get to a better feeling. But that maintains the argumentation, that maintains inner argumentation. So the peace of being, that which you truly seek, is that which you are. You are this aware presence, but it's not in the realm of inner conversation. It's presence, reality, truth. The reality of Marga, not Marga, but its reality. The reality of Marga is the reality of Magdi. Is one reality. So God is love. Truth is love. And in love, there are no divisions. There is no judger and judged in love, in truth. So it's not so much about loving yourself or loving all aspects of yourself. It's more about understanding that this engagement, this inner engagement, this inner judgmental process has no, is not based on truth. It's not based on reality. It's not based on truth. It's based on the belief in good and bad for somebody, for a personal belief in good and bad. Because in God's realm, there is no belief in good and bad. It's in the personal mind that we engage in this battle, inner battle and outer battle. So more of a recognition and understanding. And of course, with the understanding, there is a loss of interest or reduction in your interest in judgment. Not because you are loving yourself, no, just because the understanding that it's this inner confrontation is a hoax. It's some being mired, being sort of entrapped in the realm of feelings, which has nothing to do with truth, with reality, has nothing to do with your true nature. As awareness, as presence, as truth, is nothing lacking. And you are this aware presence. You are this reality, the reality of consciousness. And the body, Marga, is a cosmic body. It's God's body, in a way.
Thank you, Magdi. That was helpful. It's nice to walk away from the hoax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, lovely, Marga. Any questions? Any questions?
Hey, Maggie, it's Frank. I got a quick question.
Yeah, Frank.
So I wasn't going to ask this because I was thinking this is too basic of a question, but it's still a question. It's and I'm very basic in my understanding. That is, you know, I often when I go into awareness or when I stand as awareness, however we term that. I notice my mind is looking for, you know, for an image to hang on to, because to go from a body mind to awareness, there's just nothing to, the mind wants to hang on to some kind of image and I don't know what to offer it. So can you talk about that? How do you go from that to awareness and not have any kind of image?
Yes. So whatever image you have of awareness, Frank, is an image of a concept. So we have an image of the wide open sky. We say it's blue and it's vast. But in fact, the wide open sky is not blue and it's not vast. It's even, there is vast is, can't describe it. The point that I'm making is whatever image you have of consciousness or awareness is an image of a concept about awareness or consciousness. In other words, there is no possible image that can be true concerning consciousness and awareness. And yet, we speak about awareness and consciousness. You know the saying, the image is not the thing. So it's important to understand. And also that awareness is the reality that hears these words right now. So if the mind is looking for some image, I would invite the mind to contemplate that reality, that consciousness or awareness is the reality that hears these words. I know it's not an image, or maybe it is an image, I don't know. Maybe all words are images in a way. Other ways of speaking about awareness or consciousness is the causeless peace, the peace of being, the causeless peace, the freedom of being, that which is absolute and irrevocable, undeniable. The reality of the world, the reality of the mind, the reality of I, my reality. I know I am not giving you images, maybe I am, I don't know, but that would be the way to look at your question. Now, I just want to make a small side note, because in your question, you said that you want the mind to have an image or to hold on to an image or to have something to work with. I just want to make a side comment that the mind doesn't work on anything, doesn't hold on to anything, doesn't perceive anything, doesn't work anything. There's only one perceiver, one doer, one holder, one a reality which is I, the I consciousness. So in your question, it's actually not the mind that is asking this question. It is I or you that is asking this question. I want to hold on to something or have something to work with that refers me to consciousness. Not I, the mind, but I, consciousness. So it's interesting once you reverse the, once you consider that it's not I, the mind that is asking a reference about consciousness, but it is I consciousness that is asking a reference about consciousness. It's pretty interesting because, like, wait a minute, what's going on here? You know, what is going on here? Who's pulling whose leg? But again, it's a valid question. Why is it valid? Because it's arising. It's arising. So I would like to have something to hold on to, or something to work with, or something to contemplate. I consciousness. Well, I am I. I is I. Now, I is I does not mean I Frank, I the body, or I the son, or the father, or the friend, or the I doesn't refer to a body mind. I refers to consciousness. It doesn't refer to a thought or to a feeling or to a memory or to a story. So contemplate I. That's a contemplation that I think Ramana Maharshi recommended sometimes, you know. He recommended that just contemplate the I am, or what am I truly, something like that. So it's I, contemplate that it's I that is contemplating I. And it's like, wait a minute, just let it stew, you know what I mean? Because...
So is it okay? Because sometimes I don't do a whole lot of meditation, but when I do, again, you know, the images come, and sometimes I sit as I'm sitting in meditation, the image of my body comes up, and I've been told to, you know, get rid of that.
No.
And what's that?
How can you get rid of an image that arose?
I don't know. I guess just keep going on to the next. Let it like, just let it fly by like a bird or something. I don't know, like a thought.
Oh, yes, yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, when a thought arises, let's say you're sitting to contemplate just a piece of being or truth, and the thought arises about your car, okay? There's nothing wrong with that thought. But because you're interested in, you're taking 30 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever to just stay with the contemplation of being, of truth, of reality, it makes no sense for you to work with that thought about your car. Although later on you can, you know, think about your car and that you need to, whatever you need to do with your car. So in terms of the thoughts that appear to you within your sitting, your meditation, your contemplation, it is better, it's a better use of that period of time to contemplate the thoughts about truth, about reality, about sensation. What is a sensation? What perceives the sensation? What is the reality of the sensation? You go to the sensation. Where is it? You know, what's its size? What's its color? What's its shape? So a contemplation of your experience, rather than thoughts about you know, about your work, or about the dinner party you're having tomorrow, or about you know. So, but the point is that we're not. There's no issue. There is no issue with a thought. There's no problem with a thought. The thought is like the weather. You know, there's no problem with that. It's just that it's a better use of your time to work with certain thoughts and sensations, and not with others.
Magdi, my original question about,
Yes.
you said it's the eye asking the eye what, about an image, right? Instead of the body mind. It's not the mind asking, it's
Right.
the eye. So is there an answer to that? Or is it just something that I shouldn't even pay attention to? Like when that comes up, should I just say should I just go on to the next thought or whatever?
Well, if the question arises, what can I hold on to? What can I work with that sort of reminds me of consciousness or reminds me of my true nature? I think it's a good question. It's a good question. It's a good question. I would contemplate this question. I would ask myself, am I at this moment within this question, am I considering that I am the body-mind Frank? What is my, if any, what is my assumption about what the I that is interested, whatever it is that is interested in, what am I assuming myself to be? Because as soon as I look at what am I assuming myself to be, I'm going to consciousness. This is a question about consciousness. So in a way, this question that you just brought up, like what could I use to remind me of consciousness? If you just sort of explore this question, rather than, okay, well, what can I use? Can I use this technique, that technique, this method? What am I assuming myself to be? What is it that is asking this question? Is it Frank that is looking for something to become what? To become more conscious as Frank? To become like a better Frank? Or to awaken to my true nature? I want to awaken to my true nature, but wait a minute. Can Frank awaken to his true nature? It's a good question. Frank is that which I assume myself to be. And also, Frank is the name of the body mind that my mom and dad have given this body mind the name Frank. And I'm aware of that body mind. I'm aware of the name Frank. I'm aware it's a son, a friend, whatever. I'm aware of Frank. But the fact that I'm aware of Frank, does that mean that I am Frank? So there's a lot of stuff to look at. Once you become interested in looking, it's a good risk, because the Frank, the body mind, is something I perceive. Is that which I perceived that which I am? Or am I the reality that perceives? Secondly, like that which I perceive, which is Frank, like everything else, is a form, is an appearance. Whether Frank appears to me as a thought, as a sensation, as a feeling, as an image, it's still a perception. It's still an object. Can a perception perceive something? Can a perception use a certain technique in order to perceive or to know consciousness? It's a good question. In my reasoning, no. A perception, anything that I perceive, cannot rely on a technique or use a method in order to understand or in order to comprehend consciousness. The only candidate to realize consciousness or to understand consciousness or to is consciousness itself. Think of it this way, Frank. And it's maybe a crude way of saying it, but let's try it. There is consciousness and there is non-consciousness. Can non-consciousness comprehend consciousness? In my reasoning, the answer is no. That which is not conscious cannot comprehend that which is conscious. Only that which is conscious can comprehend that which is conscious. This is a crude, way of saying it. Only consciousness is the candidate. There is only one candidate for truth, which is truth itself. The body mind is perceived. I'm not denying it, but I'm just saying it is perceived. That which is perceived does not perceive. So it's a rich question, the question you asked, Frank. It's a rich question to sort of dive into the question rather than to rush towards an answer. Okay, well, which, let me see, what do I use? I use this tool or that tool. Do I use it? No, I think there is a dive into the question. Allow the question to sort of reveal more of what's in it.
Good. Okay. Thanks, Magdi. Yeah, just more will be revealed, as they say.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
Okay. You're welcome, Frank.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Ginny. Hello, Ginny. You write, hello, Magdi. Is it possible to enjoy everything, even painful events, when we realize our true nature? So, Ginny, there is a difference between pain and suffering. Now, pain, it's unavoidable. Body-mind experiences pain, physical pain, and sometimes even we experience other people's pain. Somebody close to us is in pain. We experience a little bit of their pain because of the empathy, because of the transparency of our true nature. But the answer to your question, is it possible to enjoy everything, even painful events, when we realize our true nature? Our true nature is joy and peace. It's actually peace and happiness. And the peace and happiness that does not depend on a particular relationship or a particular situation, or doesn't depend on a healthy body, doesn't depend on situation in the family. So yes, our true nature is peace and happiness. Now, sometimes there are difficult situations in the world and in the body, then even a sage, may have issues with their health, or have issues, there may be issues in the world that affect the body mind. And then we deal with that, but it does not affect the peace and happiness of our being. Once you come to a full and complete understanding about your true nature, once you become completely free of the belief that you are Ginny, that you are a person, that you are a son or a daughter or somebody, once you come to the full realization of your true nature as awareness, the reality that hears these words, which is not a form, which is not mortal. as this understanding permeates your living experience, it permeates your body, mind, it permeates your life, then that is the end of suffering. Which I think in the Indian tradition, they refer to it as Sahaja Samadhi. Satchitananda. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you for your company and your love, your friendship. Holger, thank you, Holger. Lovely to see you. And Jenny, nice to be with you, Jenny. Zoe, hello, Zoe. Thank you, Lena. Kelly.
Thank you, Magdi.
Lovely, Zoe. And Marga, thank you, Marga. Frank, as usual, lovely to see you. And John. Thank you, John. And Esther, hello, Esther. Yes. And Holly. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Let's stay up.
Thanks, Maggie. See you soon.
Yes.